Nacho, Pardo, Game Management, PostGame, Criticism, and Evaluation. Hello everyone, I'm Nacho Pardo. Before beginning, I want to thank the Italian Federation for having invited me to this convention. It is certainly a pleasure to be asked to speak to all of you, despite virtually presenting, and I'm honored to share in my experiences as an umpire. Without a doubt, I can consider Italy as my second home and a place where I experienced some of my greatest moments in my career as an umpire up until my retirement in 2019. Forgive me, as Italian is not my native language, if I make any errors with my grammar or choice of words, but I am sure all of you who watch this presentation will be able to understand everything I say. Today, we are speaking about a very interesting topic and fundamental in the work of umpires. There will be many perspectives covered in this session, and there will be no regulations or rules to be discussed, as that is not the purpose of this presentation. Game management and evaluation is the topic of today's session, and they are of extreme importance, just as knowing the rules of the game. After many years of umpiring, and after having made various contributions to the game, one of the factors that I have spent more time focusing on highlighting is my ability to manage a game. I have placed more emphasis on the management of the game to avoid chaos on the field and to ensure that rules are applied correctly and also keep the overflow flow of the game. Maintaining good game management has been a priority of mine throughout my years as an umpire. 259. I am certain that this is one aspect of the game that has motivated me to be the best version of myself on the field. Naturally, speaking about this concept of game management, I've been able to learn from umpires who've had more experience than I do. This is fundamental in one's development. I can assure you all that even with umpires who've had more experience, including those who I've seen work within Italy, but also around the world, this concept of game management is consistently one of the most critical aspects of our work. Naturally, having one's eyes and ears always open and prepared to learn from the advice of others is key, especially when dealing with complicated situations. Game management might seem simple, but it is not. There are 3 types of umpires, and as I present to you their characteristics, you'll be able to fill in the blanks with names you can relate to. The 3 types of umpires are rulebook attorneys, or representatives of the laws of the game, freelancers, and third, a combination of both. Umpires who prioritize the rules of the game are very critical of their work. They like to memorize the rules, be prepared for all types of situations, and are excellent in doing so. When they see something that is occurring, They like to be able to apply the official rules of the game to ensure the game can proceed as required. They are critical thinkers, similar to the mindset of engineers. Freelancers are not as expert in the rules of the game. They study the rules only as required. They prefer to make decisions based on what is right, with not as much emphasis placed on the official rules. They communicate well, use good sense, and their already existing intelligence. Those that possess a combination of both, rulebook attorneys and freelancers, are the best possible kind of umpire without a doubt. They know the rules, they apply the rules appropriately, and communicate them well, and they maintain a strong philosophy of how to manage a game. Where do you fall in these categories? Be honest with yourself. Maybe you require some time to make an honest decision and decide in which group you find yourself. Maybe you need to ask one of your umpire colleagues to ensure the answer is fair and correct. Now I can leave you for a minute or two to reflect on this important question. What kind of umpire are you? Are you a representative of the laws of the game? Firm, militant, staying within the parameters of what the game's rules state? Or are you a freelancer who tries to keep the game flowing smoothly, aims for good communication, but does not deem the rules as important? Or do you have a balance between these two types of umpires? The most important factor here is your honesty, because it is very easy to simply choose what your desire is rather than who you really are. By asking one of your colleagues, you might be able to hold yourself more accountable to find where you really fall on the spectrum. Are you very critical in your actions, or are you a free spirit? Even now we can think, where do I find myself on this scale? And with whom am I the most effective in umpire a game alongside? For example, with this umpire, I'm able to do my job more easily than I am if I'm paired with this other umpire, who makes it more difficult for me to do my job. I am sure that now as you contemplate, names will come to mind. Becoming an umpire who all wish to work with requires experience and an open mind. Maintaining control over the game is the most important thing. Controlling a game depends on your philosophy as an umpire, your intelligence as a person, your communication abilities, your capacity to navigate challenges on the field. For the majority of people, your mentality and philosophy will grow and develop over time. This is important. It is not necessary to work the most important games to become the best version of yourself possible. How many of you have gone from umpiring major international competitions to returning to the local level? At times, it is very useful to remember and refamiliarize yourself with the essence and origins of your umpire career. It is not always as important in the number of games we have umpired or at the level of the game in which we have been chosen as umpires. Imagine that one day you will return to the field where you started your career as an umpire, and umpire a game played by young children aged 13, who look to you in awe and appreciation, knowing that you've been on the field in the highest levels of the game. The game ends, and everyone thanks you for your presence on this particular day. This is because for them, it is special to be umpired by you, and you realize that all of your hard work was worth it. Think that memories of all of your experiences are more important than the number of times you've umpired at the highest level of the game. These are some of the characteristics of the best umpires, and without a doubt, help in your ability to manage a game. Number 1. The ability to stay calm and tranquil is of extreme importance to the potential success of an umpire. It is without a doubt that this quality will help you arrive at the best possible level of your game. When this is explained, it makes sense. It is necessary to maintain a calm demeanor throughout the game, which your colleagues will also take note of. Your presence will also influence the athletes on the field, as your calm mentality will help build and maintain rapport when resolving moments that are potentially stressful. This is the rule of thumb, but we all know that type of umpire who loses his or her cool on the field. In these stressful situations, maintaining a sense of calm is more than just a virtue, but a necessity. Using imaginary earplugs is not a bad idea. Secondly, accessibility. In addition to having a calm presence, making yourself accessible is important to doing your job well. When you are accessible, you listen, you respect the opinions of others, and it becomes difficult to lose this respect when you've built it. You only have one opportunity to make a good first impression. Third, physical appearance. This matters regardless of what anybody might say. Being punctual and dressing appropriately are key. When you look good, you feel good. This is a philosophy that makes sense to me. If you're starting from a low level and aspire to become a good umpire, by focusing on your physical appearance, you are given a direct boost in your development. You will look like you belong on the field, seem like you have control of the game. You'll be able to better manage the game, manage it well, with less issues. Coaches will trust you more. All of which being of utmost importance. Your honest reply to the previous question will help you determine what kind of umpire you are currently and how you can make improvements. A good game begins before you might think. It starts with preparation, how you take the field, the manner in which you review lineup cards and interact with managers, and the way in which you communicate with anyone around you. The little things, like maintaining control of the game, add to your presence. Your movement and actions and the way in which you communicate with players and coaches is fundamental in creating this positive image, foster good working relationships, as well as trust. If you ignore these aspects of the game, your work becomes more difficult. There always exist many more challenges to face in every game of baseball with coaches, players, and situations, and if we're not aware of these factors previously stated, your work will always be harder to do. Fourth is confidence. Building trust with others and having this trust placed in you and your role on the field begins with confidence in yourself. This is a difficult concept to define because it's very, very important, especially in the relationships you maintain with other umpires, so that they are less worried and uncertain themselves. This makes dealing with problems easier to manage as a crew. Fifth is game management. If you manage a particular situation well, then you will gain respect. Your capacity to manage situations is the factor that defines your overall ability as an umpire. The nature of our sport, either baseball or softball, always requires us to be prepared for the upcoming and inevitable action to unfold on the field. You must be prepared for changes to the game in the movement they transpire. This is regardless of the game you're umpiring at a higher or lower level. It is more so at the lower levels that sudden changes occur to the game. What is important is your positioning and perspective to be prepared for any unforeseen changes to the action on the field. You must always maintain a position of power over the game being played. If an umpire can't manage routine plays, they likely will not be able to handle unusual cases. This is clear to most of us, but worth stating. Learning to adjust your personal philosophy to the level in which you are working is an important step to make. This is because you must always apply your balanced umpiring philosophy anywhere you go, regardless of the situation. Making adjustments is key to your success. Developing your skills to achieve your goals is of extreme importance. Adapting your philosophy to each level you are working at is one of the factors that makes a quality umpire. Rules only speak about what you should do when something happens. You can use the rule to decide what was allowed or what was not permitted. You must learn how and when to apply the content of the rules. The more experience you have, the more clear this becomes for each and every situation you encounter. The intention of the rule and its application are related to the field of play and those who play on it. Your responsibility as an umpire includes your decision and your ability of applying the rules of the game. Umpires must work throughout their entire careers to find this balance of when and how to apply the regulations of the game. The best do not miss any calls, nor becoming perplexed at difficult times. Let's take a moment to discuss something else. What happens on a day when you commit a major mistake or when something occurs that you were not expecting? Up until this point, we've spoken about things that are within your realm of control. Trust, presence, establishing rapport, for example. However, what happens when you experience a terrible day on the field or commit a horrendous mistake? Every umpire has had his share of poor performances. This can be because of what happened on the field, challenges with colleagues, coaches, players, among other things. It is not always easy to forget about these moments. When you miss something on the field, understanding this is the first step to recovery. From that moment and onwards, everything depends on how you readjust. The more you can umpire in alignment with your philosophy and objectives, the better. Dealing with criticism is important. We forget that despite umpiring at the higher levels, we cannot assume that we've learned everything there is to know. Never forget that we can always improve and learn more. Advice can always be used to our advantage. As stated, when missing a call, understanding and recognizing this is the first step to take to get back on track. From this moment and onwards, everything depends on how you regain control. The longer you umpire, the more you are aware of all your own tendencies and should be able to handle constructive criticism. The higher the level, the more chances you will see something new or face a more difficult challenge. No one is above making an error in judgment. Think about a player or coach who has been confronted with a challenge. Their careers are always based on their ability to manage the difficulties presented to them and then rise above them. Advice is always something we should be taking into consideration, especially from umpires with more experience than we have. The umpires can never and should never simply erase their memories and experiences. Forgetting about the missed call or bad judgment is not in your best interest. We can always use bad experiences to become better at our role, and as such, they are not so bad after all. Why did this happen? To start, conduct a careful analysis of how external factors influenced your specific decision or overall work on this particular day. Did you take something to the field that happened to you in an unrelated area of your life, like at your work or something that happened at home? Were you mentally prepared for this game? Did you apply the rule in an incorrect way? These mistakes are easier than we think to correct. By studying and appropriate reflection, we can do this. The video never lies. We can look back and see what happened that was within our control, that could have been done differently. Today, we have the ability, due to technology, to look back and see what was done wrong. This was not possible in years past. With technology, we can see what we did and make adjustments for the next opportunity. Make a list of what can be learned from, done differently, and do not hesitate to be honest with your criticism. This is in your best interest. The process is based on finding solutions. Before anything else, we must keep an open mind and be prepared to admit errors. If we lack the ability to keep an open mind, this work becomes more difficult. With an open mind, we're able to find solutions to that of which we did wrong. Remember the power of deep breath? Breathe, and then go back and watch the game when possible with an objective perspective. When this happens in real time on the field and you know you made a mistake, the first thing to do is try to relax. Keep your decisions firm. Reaffirm your overall ability as an umpire. After knowing you've made a mistake, you're typically less calm. Your job is still to umpire the game. Take a step back, relax, breathe, and calm down. This is key. Keep in mind that the other umpires on the field all want the best for you as well. Try not to negate on what has just been declared. Avoid discussing it and do not reevaluate your position. Look to move on. What has happened, and this is not changeable at this point. After the game, do what you need to do to relax and move on from the situation. Do not dread on this. Find a relaxing place where you can reflect quietly and honestly about what happened on this particular day. After the game, do what you need to do to relax and move on from the situation, and do not dread on this. Find a relaxing place where you can reflect quietly and honestly about what happened on this particular day. After your work on the field, you must always make time to reflect. When you do everything possible in the moment, you should accept what has happened and make the next best decision. Reflect when you've already calmed down, especially for the sake of your next job. Examine what can be done differently should this situation present itself to you again. Use this situation to your advantage. Everything that has happened should be examined again, and look for better ways to respond. This will prepare you for the next time it does take place. If you do not do this, then there is no value that you can take away from this situation, and it's not able to serve your best interest at all. Remember why you became an umpire. It may have been because you love the sport, for the social aspect of the game, the thrill of working under pressure, or working under the enthusiasm of players and spectators. Do not get mad at yourself for the error. Try to avoid feeling frustrated or resentful. This mistake will repeat itself if you do not overcome these negative thoughts and feelings. If you're still mad with yourself, remember that being a part of the game is a privilege. We can never forget this. We can learn from this as an opportunity to grow. Maintain a strong body language. Respect the rules. Keep your gestures concise and preserve your professionalism. Returning to your best form after a bad experience is part of the journey. None of us is free from having a bad day. Overcoming these days is what makes you better and contributes to your overall success. In closing, something we should never forget is the problem is not the mistake. The problem is making mistakes and not learning from them. I repeat this because this is a philosophy which I consider to be very important, especially from my experiences. We are all going to make mistakes. We are human. No matter where we work, we will all make mistakes. This is part of being a human. Again, the problem is not making a mistake. Rather, it's making a mistake and not learning from it. If we do not learn from our mistakes, we will never move forward and get better. If we make a mistake, we can use constructive criticism to get better. We still have the possibility to be great, despite errors in judgment. An umpire can come to the field and call balls and strikes, but without honest self-reflection, the potential to be great is limited. Lastly, in conclusion, there is something to say that we should never forget. To become one of the best umpires, you should be a Red Sox fan. Thank you very much to everyone for this opportunity, and I hope to one day have the chance to be together at the convention in person. It is not only the game, but the social aspect of the game that we love and cherish. I want to end with honoring the memory of one of our dear friends who is no longer with us, someone who was an incredible man on and off the field. I speak of Enrico Obletter, who we all will miss dearly. Thank you.